Welcome to the FNO InsurTech Podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsurTech. We talk about how technology and innovation are affecting and driving change in the industry. Here are your hosts, Matt D. Fothery, Lee Boyd, and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world. Welcome to an exciting, enthralling, and altogether new episode of
FNO InsurTech with your host, Rob Beller.
That's right. That's right. And the other guy, whatever his name is. We don't have to introduce him.
Yeah.
In fact, Lee Boyd has said many times, why do we say our names?
Why do we say our names?
Well, I think, why? You don't think anyone cares what our names are?
No, all it makes me think about is after the first one or two podcasts, you said, "Hey Lee, can I give you some feedback?" And I said, "No." And you said, "Okay, here it is." You say my name a lot. And so now every time we do a podcast here, 115 in, I think, how often did I use the person's name? So now think about that. Think about that. But anyway, welcome to the podcast, everybody.
Welcome to another edition. And today we have something really kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like on Saturday Night Live, when you have done Saturday Night Live 5 times, you get a jacket.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a Steve Martin Award.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 5-timer jacket, something like that.
Sure.
And so today we have a third timer.
Third timer.
And that shouldn't scare you away. You shouldn't say to yourself, I'm not going to listen to this one. No, you should listen to this one.
You should.
Because today we have on a guy who has come from, from left field in the InsurTech world to he's kind of kicking some butt now.
He's a big deal. Big deal.
Yeah, his company found itself in exactly the right place at the right time vis-a-vis COVID, has blown up and is doing great things that we're excited about and excited to hear about. And that is Andy Greff.
Yay.
Not, as Lee thought, Andy Griffith.
No, it's not Andy Griffith today.
Not Andy Griffith, but Andy Greff from Planner.
Yeah, I'm always excited to talk to Andy. We first got to know him back at an ITC, a true startup story, from concept to really implementation. Now insurance companies all over the place are using him, water mitigation companies. And today we're going to get to find out, where he's been and maybe some new news with some of his integration. I'm very excited to talk to him today.
Right. And I'm going to throw a little spoiler out there for those of you who are in the claims space. Andy was recently completed his integration with the Exact product suite, and he's also has an integration with the Symbility suite. Yeah. And so he's locked and loaded for success.
Absolutely. He is ready to go.
He's ready to go. And so we wanted to have him back on to talk about those integrations and also to just talk about how things have changed. Because Andy, when we first interviewed him a long time ago, we said to him, hey, can we have you back on regularly and kind of track the life of an InsurTech? And so this episode is particularly pertinent to those of you who are in or work for or run InsurTechs. It can be a long ride, but sometimes there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and Andy has found that.
Yeah.
And so we dedicate this to all you women and men out there who are working hard in the InsurTech space and making it happen. And so this is for you. So without further ado, this is our interview with Andy Greff from Planner. Hey, everybody. We are here with a very special guest, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Very special guest, a 2-timer on our podcast, at least.
Or more.
At least.
Yeah, 3
timer.
times.
Oh, good.
3
So
times.
you get your 3-timer badge.
That's right.
After today's
That's right.
show.
The hat trick.
Don't forget.
Hat trick.
That's right. You get the FNO podcast hat trick pin for your lapel. We have an old friend who is not old, but an old friend. And that's Andy Greff, CEO and co-founder. Co-founder, is that right?
No, I took over from after they had some good tech after a couple of years, and I took over. So I'm technically not the co-founder.
Okay, so CEO and the guy that runs the place for Planner, and who's been, as we said, been on our podcast several times, and a great guy, somebody who we met at ITC, and maybe we'll talk about ITC a little in a few minutes. Met him years ago, and we'll tell that story again because it's always a good story. And anyways, welcome back. Good to have you.
Welcome, Andy.
Thanks, guys. Great to be back.
One of the reasons, and we're just going to jump right into it. First, for those people who've been living in an InsurTech cave for the last few years, take a minute and tell everybody what Planner is.
Planner is a virtual claim solution for the interior. We generate full 3D models of interior spaces, all from smartphone photos. So it's super easy to use. Initially, it was designed for a self-service claim solution where policyholders can take pictures, get the request from a desk adjuster. They can follow the super easy guidance and flow, take pictures using our Android or iPhone app that basically every smartphone can support, and guides them through taking pictures. Takes about 2 to 3 minutes a room, and those pictures are instantly uploaded and available to the desk adjuster. And then a short time after that, a 3D model, fully measured 3D model, is made available to that desk adjuster. That's the high level of it. But the cool thing about it is not only does it tell you the measurements of the room that was there, but you can also ascertain and assess the damage in the room using our SmartPix capabilities to measure from within pictures and really look at the ceiling, walls, floors, wherever you want, and be able to derive the damage as well. So using a combination of our AI, machine learning, and our augmented reality on the app side, which is where the name of the company comes from, they're able to really be virtually there for the claim. So, since our discussions in the past, we've, rolled out a ton of new use cases for the water MIT people who are already on site, for the field adjusters who are already on site. So expanding out just beyond the policyholders to just enabling any technician who happens to be on site and really finding an easy way to gather the information from the field.
Well, Andy, we were talking earlier about how we've known you for a long time. We first met you at an ITC conference. We walked over, you showed us a demo of your product, and Rob and I both were just floored by the technology. Talk to me a little bit about where you were then and where you are now. What are some of these successes you have accomplished with Planner?
Absolutely. Well, when we met, that was probably my third ITC. And so like the first two, I was scrappy startup, begging for tickets to go in and wandering around with a backpack on with no home, begging for charging outlets and things like that. I mean, that's literally how, Miguel, right, from ClaimBot.
Yeah.
Yes.
He and I, from the first thing, backpack on, really just hustling around, trying to shake hands, meet everyone in the space because we weren't insurance folks. And then you fast forward 2 years, and then we have our own booth there. And when you guys met us, we were primarily targeting the IAs with our Planner Pro solution. And that's similar to some of the apps that like Exact has rolled out and where you draw in augmented reality and you draw the room and in 3D. And it was meant as you're on site, you draw it using that new technology. And we love that technology. It blew everyone's mind, right? But what we found, guys, were it was just a bridge too far technologically, right? It was a little different. It was, how should I say? It wasn't complex, but it was a different mindset. People had to work in augmented reality, and that wasn't something that they were used to. So not only did they have to learn using a smartphone and using an app, but they also had to figure out how to draw in the virtual world, in the augmented world. And we found adoption to be a little sluggish on that one, to be honest with you, right? Because there was some training involved and everything else. And so it was super sexy though, right? I mean, it was really cool and worked well. But, after that, we kind of retrenched in early 2019. I mean, not to revisit the entire story, but we retrenched and basically said, hey, look, we need a solution that everybody can use the first time, right? And it has to use photos. It has to work on every device and no training at all. And so we came up with Planner Snap. And that's the solution that we launched in Q4 of 2019. And then as the pandemic hit in March, it was, we were perfectly positioned to be able to take advantage and enable self-service claims. And so ever since March, it's been gangbusters, right? Bananas with the number of carriers adopting it, using it, and rolling it out. And, before March, the hesitation always was, I don't know if a homeowner can take these pictures and do it, or they'll want to. And that's
And
changed
after March, it
considerably.
was, they'll just have to figure it out.
They'll just have to figure it out. And I'll tell you what, though, the cool thing is we've done numerous surveys of policyholders after using our system, and we've seen scores such as 10% increase in Net Promoter Score, right? People saying, I'd rather do this than have somebody in my house. And it's not always because of safety. It's just like, I want to do this on my own time, at my own leisure, when I have time to do it. I don't want to be beholden to somebody to show up on site, or, and to a certain extent, like, this is the transformative idea that's happened is, you're familiar with kind of white glove treatment when it comes to adjusting, right? Hey, we're going to get you paid quickly. We're going to go on site. We're going to spend a lot of time with you. We're going to tabletop adjust this. We'll be 3 hours. We'll take you through the whole process, and I'm going to, cut you a check on the spot, right? That's always been kind of the white glove approach to adjusting, and now white glove adjusting, high touch adjusting, is giving options. It's the optionality. Do you want to do this yourself, right? Do you want somebody in there? And so if you don't have that option, then people, 45 to latest numbers show 45 to 50% of people want to do it themselves, right? And then 25% of the people would say, yeah, I would do it myself if you wanted me to. You know what I mean? So we're talking about 75% of the policy holder base would either want to do it or would be okay with doing it, So that's astronomical.
There's some companies and some situations, like Amazon, right, is the easiest example maybe, that COVID was a game changer. Amazon was, of course, already a beast, but now it's even a bigger beast because it absolutely was the right solution, or the best solution available at a time that none of us could have planned for, or most people didn't see coming, right? And that's COVID, of course, which is amazingly almost a year ago already. But I don't know if you were building your product for COVID, but the way that it turned out it was kind of very fortuitous, the timing and how it worked. COVID has been a godsend for carriers and a boom to your company as a result. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. It's a forcing function, just like with anything. Y'all have kids. You've been through the whole parent-teacher association meetings, right? At my kids' school, they would force you to drive on site, and you'd have to go downtown Austin, with Austin traffic and everything else, and go to the parent-teacher, the all hands. And for 2 years, I've been asking, why can't we do a Zoom or a WebEx or whatever else? And literally nobody, they looked at me sideways like they had no idea what it was. And so a lot of things have changed. Parent-teacher meetings, they're all done over Zoom now, right? All hands are all done over Zoom, which is the best thing ever. Everyone has adopted a version of self-service claims. So a lot of things have changed, not just claims and everything else, but I think it's, Austin traffic is better, because not everyone's commuting downtown. It's amazing. The environment's better for the environment. Claims are better. We're a green technology. How about that, right? That's one way to look at us, right? We're definitely a green technology that enables the virtualization of some of the processes that beforehand consumed a lot of carbon, right? So there's a lot of benefits across the board for what's happened, and we're one of the beneficiaries of it. And, always look at the bright side, I guess. Hopefully there's a lot more good things that'll come out of this.
So to follow that up, I'm sure that you had plans for, this is what we expect growth-wise, and this is what we can foresee, and I'm talking about January of 2019. And then bada bing, bada boom, you're growing like crazy, right? I'm sure that for the first time, it's like in hurricanes, a funny thing happens, and that is carriers call us in a hurricane, which never happens the rest of the time. The rest of the time, we have to hound them to get their business. But in a hurricane, they have to hound us to help them. And that must have been what it was like for you, that all of a sudden the world was upside down and carriers were calling you saying, please help me. Is that what occurred?
100%. It was. And they were calling us, people who wouldn't return our phone calls before were definitely returning. And I totally get it. So two things, just like with you guys, right? When you're in the midst of that when you're in the midst of those scenarios, what's the thing that you're really most focused on? Are you trying to roll out new features? Are you trying to roll out new products? No, right? It's all about, hey, let's make sure operations are good. Let's make sure we can scale horizontally to all the stuff based on the scale of the damage, right? So it's all about scale and customer satisfaction and meeting your SLAs at that point, right? And that's the same with us, right? So March, April hit, and we got to scale. And that means, on the dev side, that means on the ops side, that means making sure the existing product that we have works really, really well at high usage. And scale in the software world is it's a feature, right? It's not something that just happens. You literally have to devote significant dev, engineering, need dollars, efforts towards scaling. And that's what we really spent 3 to 6 months really making sure that the operation does scale. And now we're at the point where we're adding so many new features in, which is tremendous, that, we've got a great base of people using it. They're giving us the feedback, and we're expanding. Like with our latest announcement on the Xactimate integration.
Right. And we want to hear all about that. So everybody was scrambling in March of last year. How should we do this? Claims are still coming in, but we don't want to send our adjusters out, or maybe we should, or no, we can't, and people don't want them. So a product like Planner is a logical, natural solution to part of the problem. But now that we've lived with COVID for a year, we understand it better, and some places have loosened up more than others. Are you finding that the carriers that started using you, earlier in COVID, that they're sticking with you, that it's found its way into the workflow? I mean, are you sticking with all these people that are using you? Or are they going back to the way that things were?
No, they're absolutely sticking with us. I mean, when you do the analysis on it and you look like, okay, I can spend $50-$60 on a planner, or I could spend, $200-$250 and I can save, $200-$250 there, then, that's a 3-4x return on your money. Right. And that doesn't happen often in life and in business, right? There's very few times that you can see that kind of rate of return on an investment. Right. It's so obvious, especially on those low severity claims, mid severity claims, where you previously had to send somebody out, but the data that you would collect on site is the same data that a policyholder can provide. Then they've run the numbers. If there's one thing that the carriers are really good at is actuarial, obviously, and running the numbers and looking at rates of return on things, right? And that's what they do. They just ran the numbers, and it just makes so much sense. And we haven't even started, honestly, peeling back the ROI onion on things like putting an exact dollar associated with Net Promoter Score, right? They know that improves it, but what is that? The marketing folks really probably know, but that's kind of a closely guarded secret, right? But if we can improve Net Promoter Score 1, 2, 5, 10, right? What does that mean to the top line of the carrier, right? From a revenue producing perspective. So. And if we're able to reduce, I mean, we've got a couple instances where just by flipping the switch, we reduce 4 to 5 days off of cycle time, just by flipping the switch. And then with further enhancements, you can reduce it by 7 days or more, right? So all of those things are really starting to get analyzed, and they're really starting to take a long, hard look at further expansion. And that's what's happening now. So Rob, the real question is not how do we peel back the usage of it, but it's more like, how do we put this in the hands of more of our constituents, more of our folks who are on site, like WaterMet, like the technicians, like adjusters, right? Because what happens now is it ceases to be just a self-service solution and becomes a digital claims transformational, because the pictures are coming in automatically in real time. They're freezing the claim, right? So you don't get any untoward damage showing up 2 weeks later, right? In Florida, on the assignment, the whole assignment of benefits thing, this is a massive game changer for the assignment of benefits, because you can lock in that claim, right? You see those pictures right away, and there's not a lot of funny business that can happen after that, because the damage is there and in color on the high res pictures that we provide, and obviously all the measurements and everything else are generated as a result. So expansion is happening. Expansion into different use cases is 100% happening. We rolled out something that you'll hear about. We haven't done a press release on it. We call it Field Connect. We're making it available to the water MIC guys when they're on site, just to take the pictures on behalf of the carrier. Since they're already on site, just take the pictures. Spend 2 to 3 minutes, take the pictures. Then you can determine your method of inspection after that, right? Do we send out a technician? Do we send out, or can we do this remotely, right? So using those folks who the EMS response people, right, the first responders on site, and getting them to take the pictures is turning out to be a really, really successful use case for us too.
I think this is a great time to talk about Xactimate and Planner and what it is y'all are doing. I mean, to get Planner in the hands of more people, having partners like Xactimate where you can integrate with them and use shared services is a big deal. Talk to us about what it is you're doing with Xactimate.
Well, what we've signed is an integration strategic alliance agreement with Xactimate to integrate from beginning to end from Xactimate. So you can initiate Planner projects from the Xactimate X1 interface. And from there, it's a handoff to Planner. We take the Planner projects created. We send out all of the necessary invitations to WaterMit, homeowner, adjuster, technician, whoever in the field is using it. They take the pictures using our Android or iPhone app, submit it back, and we generate all the results. And it automatically goes back into Xactimate, including into Sketch. So we have the Sketch integration as well, where all of the rooms are generated into Sketch. That's 2D and 3D rooms, windows, doors, openings, structures, floors, walls, ceilings. All of it goes back in. So and the cool thing is like our 3D models are already really, really detailed and complete. I mean, every bump out, every piece of cabinetry, every vanity, bathtub, whatever it happens to be, it shows up in our 3D model. Imagine how much time that takes, A, to measure, right? And B, to then go and sketch into Xactimate, right? It just takes time to draw those lines and do everything. And with us, you spend 3 minutes taking a picture of a high-end kitchen. You drive home, open up your computer the next day, that entire sketch is loaded into your computer, right? I mean, that is a game changer.
I know that adjusters have been wanting this connection for a long time. Is this a strategic alliance with XactAnalysis, this partnership? Is this going to help additional carriers come on board with you?
Considering they've got 85% of the market.
Quite large.
Yeah, they're quite large, right? So yeah, we've the response has been insane. Ever since we did the press release. They did the press release last week, right? Mm-hmm. So we kind of jorked on it with them, but they're very excited about it. They issued the press release on the strategic alliance, and since then our phone's been ringing off the hook, and the calendar's been back to back, right? So it's been great demonstrating the new integration that's launching later this month, and we're super excited. So all of our existing customers, come in a couple of weeks, they'll be operational, be able to use it just by having the Xactimate salesperson, initiate us as a provider on their system. So it's super easy, just like the same way that you would enable an Eagle View, right? It's the same way you request the same way. Just instead of saying I need a roof report, you'd say I need a property data, and so then we're in there. It's fantastic.
I'm interested in looking a little bit behind the curtain with this. We've been talking about this for over a year with you, that you were thinking about going down this route, and now you're here. What was it like getting this done? To all the insurtechs out there who are interested and maybe afraid of this, I mean, what was the experience like integrating with Xactimate?
It was the right time. It took time to get to the deal done, but I think we were both looking for a unique partnership, and we found that. So it was very much a strategic partnership that came about. It was a win-win for both sides, right? This was filling in a hole that they didn't have necessarily in their technology, and their carrier partners were asking them for, hey, have you integrated in Planner? Hey, have you integrated in Planner? And so it makes their product sticky, makes our product more sticky. So I think it's a win-win across the board. And so from an integration perspective, look, we've done, over my career, I've probably done a couple thousand integrations. And I'll say, and even in the planner days, we've done a number of integrations we've integrated into Guidewire, we've integrated into CoreLogic, we've integrated into a lot of homegrown claims management systems. And I'll say, these guys have been fantastic. The Xactimate guys have been fantastic. Their devs have been extremely responsive, strong product integration. When they said they would support an integration from an InsurTech, that's what's happened. So we've been able to work with them really closely to make sure that this is I always drive the team. I always say, look, we want to make sure that this product, this integration is not just a data integration. This is a capital P product for us, right? So how do we treat it? How do we make this integration, pop? How do we make it work really well? And that's everything we do in Planner is all about that. How do we make this really a really great product from a design perspective, from a usability perspective, everything else? And so that's really what we've been pushing to do. And the Xactimate guys have been receptive to that. So suggestions that we made, they enabled pretty quickly. And just it's been a good experience, solid technology, solid APIs, and good partner.
We've had Mike Fulton on the podcast a few times, and we're big Mike Fulton fans. And for those of you who don't know, he runs Xactware. Mike has made it clear to us in the last few years when we've had him on that they are committed to intelligently integrating with the right solutions and bringing various InsurTechs into their ecosystem when it's right. And so I have to give props out to the Xact team because, one of the knocks on Xact is that, they've been very protective of their revenue model for a long time and hesitant to do this, but they're doing it and they recognize that it's important. So kudos to the Xact team
I agree.
to take this on. And to recognize that the time was right.
You were saying you've integrated with CoreLogic. Does this move impact the CoreLogic relationship and the connections you have there?
I hope not. Look, we're Switzerland, right? We don't have exclusivity with anyone in any form, in any fashion. That's the killer of a startup, to be honest with you, right? I mean, if you sign a exclusivity, you are. That can be the death of your startup. So most importantly is, we've done those integrations. We're not doing any exclusivity with anyone. We work on behalf of the carriers, right? And the carriers either, they have Guidewire or they have, on the front end or in the back end, they have CoreLogic or Xact. And so, we're happy to get those integrations done. And for us, to be honest with you, we don't charge services dollars. That's not what we do. We sell software. Right? I'm not in the business of selling services. And so we want to make sure that those integrations are like capital P products, like I said, that are work out of the box, super easy to use, and just, flip the switch and you're ready to go. We have a great integration with the Symbility CoreLogic folks as well. And several carriers using that as well, and is working end to end. So yeah, we're super excited.
So it would seem to me that you would want to reach the WaterMit community because they're dealing exclusively with inside losses. Is that correct? Is that a market that you guys are actively trying to pursue, is to put your tool in the hands of the WaterMit people?
Absolutely. We've got, we're already working with one partner, Rytech. I'm not sure if you know.
We know Jay Strawn.
Right. Yeah, Jay Strawn, tremendous advocate for on Planner, and we're already working with them. They're actively using it and training on it and getting people to use it, and so it just makes sense, right? Because they're already on site. They can take the pictures in 3 minutes, no big deal. There's no extra training required for their folks on site, and those pictures can be leveraged in the Mika NextGear system. It can be leveraged into Xact. It can be leveraged by their folks. It can be leveraged by the carrier. So it's a huge benefit for the carrier because, what we're finding, this is the interesting thing. What we're finding is there's so many tools for the carriers to use, right? But what they need to do, and I've heard it referred to as channeling. I've heard it referred to as method of inspection. But what they need is just enough detail to be able to determine which tool they're going to use, right? It's outside. Hey, I need to use EagleView. I need to use Hover, right? It's inside. Hey, how bad is it? Total burnout. Okay, well, I'm going to go and deploy somebody, right? Whatever it happens to be, there's so many different tools that they can use. It's almost becoming difficult to make that decision, right? And so if we get those pictures in early from the WaterMet folks, then that really helps determine what's the next step. Can I solve this remotely? Do I send out an adjuster? Things like that. So that really helps out up and down the claim spectrum, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think getting the inspection, the photos and the measurements at the very beginning of the process, as early as you can, will really lower the cost of the overall claim, because you can adjust so much more at the desk. But then when it's time for supplements are huge. So many times we have to send individuals back out to obtain measurements. But if you had all that at the beginning, you really have that snapshot in time where you're able to adjust it at the beginning, and then 6 months later, whenever you need to do a supplement or anything like that. So I think that your idea of getting it in the hands of the very first company or person out there is very, very important.
The thing that we discovered on that one was, and this was a unique aha, was the person that has been deployed on the EMS person deployed could be any number of franchises, right? Any number of people. So it's really not known who's going to be out there. So we had to figure out a system, and we call it Field Connect, but we had to figure out a way to be able to get let them create the projects in the field and send it back that are unique to the carrier. And so that was the big aha. That was the big release. So that we have a way that anybody, no matter if you're, if you're with WaterMet A, B, C, D, Rytec, whoever, right? That it's a single interface for them all to use, no training required, and allows them to have whichever technician on site take the picture. So you don't have to know who's going to be deployed. It's kind of this carrier specific link that they can just use and hand out, and then use it if you're on site. Boom, go create the project on site. So it's been really, really well received.
So if you're an independent adjuster, are you threatened by Planner?
Look, at the end of the day, what we're specializing really in is that capture process, the time intensive capture process, because of time driving on site, time driving home, time in the house, and safety in house, by the way, because of COVID, right? The longer you're staying in a place is directly proportional to how much of a potential virus you can ingest, right? Or inhale or be exposed to. So if you go in and you're spending 6 minutes on site, man, that is well below any sort of CDC guidelines out there, right? So you go in there, take the pictures and get the heck out, right? So it's a safety thing for them. And now with this Xacta integration, some of we're talking about skill sets that weren't necessarily scalable for them, right? So now what it's doing is unlocking the skill set that is a really powerful for them, which is the analysis, which is writing that estimate, which is really understanding the ins and outs of Xactimate and all of the severity and the coverage and everything else. And so, we're just rounding out the corners there for them and making it easier for them to be able to do what they do well.
Have you done a time study here's what it takes to do this claim without Planner, and here's what it takes to do the claim with Planner? Have you looked at that?
So there's two ways to look at it. So it's a great question. One is effort, right? If you just boil down the effort, right? And you do a side-by-side on that. And the second is you're looking at calendar, right? So we'll take the second one first, right? So calendar-wise, that after that initial claim comes in, sometimes there's a delay in picking it up and assigning it. And then you have to go and schedule time to be on site. And then you have to go on site and you've got to get that information. Then you have to come home and then you have to write the estimate and everything else like that. From a calendar perspective, we can shrink those 12, 13, 14 days into 2 days, right? So that time in motion that's probably the easiest thing that you can compare to, right? Boom, EF&OL, and we actually had this with one of our carriers. Boom, EF&OL, text message goes to the homeowner. They submit the pictures next day. All of the 3D model results and everything else are automatically uploaded and just as soon as the assignment happens to the desk adjuster, right? So that is crazy fast. That is crazy fast. From an adjuster perspective, time and motion from using Planner, I think what's happened is there was a really good, we saw about 25 to 40% time improvement using Planner versus not using Planner. But with the Xactimate integration, where Sketch goes in, that's going to be north of 50%. I just believe, right? Because there's a lot of time spent on capturing the data, B, organizing the data, transferring it to your laptop, transferring it to your phone, things like that. And then now with it automatically going into Xactimate with the sketches in there, I got to imagine, and we're going to down and do that once everything's all done and dusted and productized. We're going to go and run those studies. So, but I fully expect it to be, north of 50% time savings on this thing.
Yeah.
The way that I look at it is it's not unlike Xactimate. For those of us who remember long enough ago before Xactimate was around, or before estimating platforms were pervasive. I mean, today you wouldn't do a claim without an estimating platform, but 25 years ago you would. So what happened is that everybody had to learn how to use an estimating platform, and it did impact several things, from the economics to the speed at which you could move on claims. And I think that your product is similar. I mean, I think that it will be a helpful addition to, what's already out there. And it'll help. I believe it'll help adjusters go faster with more accuracy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think at the end of the day, that's a good thing, because somebody still has to do that work.
They still have to do the analysis.
The work has to be done, right?
That's right. The work still has to get done. It's a weird time. It's an interesting time. Technology is moving super fast. I think carriers are catching up to a certain extent, but being very cautious in their adoption of technology, which makes sense, right? But we've got 16 months underneath our belt on this, rolling this thing out and being used on tens of thousands, if not more, of claims, right? Hundreds of thousands of claims, right? So it's fantastic, and the technology is learning. It's getting better. It's getting easier, and we're really dialed into two personas, right? One is the policyholder in the field, like, can they take the pictures really easily? And the second is this, we think of it as a new breed of virtual adjusters, right? These desk adjusters, right? So to a certain extent, Rob, like I think the desk adjusting job is also giving new opportunities to people that otherwise would have to retire from the industry, right? Because they're not as, they're not as mobile. They can't climb the roofs as much as they can't, crawl underneath the house as easy, right? For whatever reason, they can't go on site to the CAD environments, whatever, right? So what happens to those folks, right? They have to go find, I honestly don't know, in the world today, do they have to go find a different a job? Do they have to go find a different role somewhere? But the new desk positions opening up and virtual positions opening up, that gives them some longevity, so we don't lose all that expertise that they've developed over 20 years in the industry, right? So I think it's, there's residual. I think there's long-term benefits to this that some of us don't even know how it's going to happen and how it's going to benefit us. So that's one of the things that I've seen.
Well, Andy, just tell us right before we leave, you've had a very busy past 12 months. What is on the roadmap for the next 12 months? Is it just staying up to date with all of the new changes, or is there anything new coming out?
It's being on our podcast more often, isn't it?
That's right.
Tell the truth.
That's right. I need the 4-timer award here.
That's right.
There's so much stuff, honestly, is making sure it's better, easier to use. The Xactimate integration is going to continue to evolve. The Symbility integration, CoreLogic integration is going to continue to evolve. There's so many use cases that we want to expand into being used for, from low severity, mid severity. We've had projects where we've had 12 to 15 rooms being submitted. This homeowner's taking pictures of 12 to 15 rooms and submitting them up. So how do we make it easier on them and better? Constantly working on the usability, figuring out how to do, maybe, in 12 months, Lee, I'll be back on this and say, hey, we're able to capture an entire room in 30 seconds, right?
That'd be awesome.
Right. I mean, it's fantastic. And more importantly is making sure that there's a delightful experience for that person during a time of stress. And that's really what we're really focused on from that key persona, right? not overwhelming them with new technology, not overwhelming them with undue pressure, but just making it super easy, delightful, and easy for them, simple for them to use. So there's a lot of stuff. Suffice to say, there's a lot of stuff. We just closed a Series A round of financing. We've got some great customers, and fundamentally, we just want to be the gold standard for those interior virtual claims. And when you think of that, you think of us. So
Wonderful.
Well, listen, as always, 3-timer. There's only a couple of 3-timers. I think there's one 4-timer, isn't there, Lee? I'd say Caribou's a 4-timer.
Yeah, Caribou.
Yeah, Caribou. Caribou likes the mic. The mic loves Caribou. We're very grateful, and we love having you on, Andy. And it's been great because we've been able to track your success and to see and hear the great things that are going on for Planner.
Yeah.
Is really wonderful. And you can send your check to my P.O. box. No, but
100%.
seriously, it is. It's great. I mean, like Lee said, and we should end with this. So we're at ITC. I think it's the second ITC, it might be the third. And you have this booth. You want to call it a booth, but what it is, you have a little piece of wood that's like 2 feet wide and 2 feet by 1 feet, right? And you had to stand there.
Yeah, no chairs.
No chairs. No, nothing. You're standing there and it says Planner up on the wall and you have this space. I mean, it's smaller than a closet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we walked up to you and like Lee said, we saw your stuff and we just thought, wow, this is a game changer. This is great stuff.
This is a game changer.
And I really have to hand it to Lee. Lee saw that then, and it's great to see that you guys are doing it now. Congratulations.
Yeah, I love it.
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. And by the way, big thanks to you for all of the help you give to the InsurTech ecosystem, right? That's you have so many of us startups on, and otherwise it's hard to get that exposure and making sure that people hear the message, right? So I think the InsurTech ecosystem owes you a big debt of gratitude for doing what you guys do as well. And
Thanks.
it's what's interesting is you have folks from across the spectrum, from the carriers to the venture folks to the larger companies like the Verisk, Mike Fulton, right, to the startups like us. And we all need to be working together and hearing the message from all of us. So thanks for doing what you do.
It's a pleasure.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you, Andy.
It's a labor of love. Okay, well, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Andy.
Bye, Andy.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We've had a great relationship with Andy where we've got to kind of be friends and follow along, and we work in similar stuff, and I'm thrilled for his success and really thrilled for what he's been able to get done with Exact. Huge game changer.
It really is. And it's great for both parties, for Exact to get it done and for Andy to have it done. And I think it's really good for the whole ecosystem to show that the startup InsurTech can continue through. I mean, he really has a great story here. I know carriers all over the place who are looking at his, not only piloting, but actually using the product in their everyday work, cycle. Yeah. So I think it's great. He's a wonderful person, really nice guy. I couldn't be happier for them.
Could be happier for him. And he gets to live in Austin, which doesn't suck.
No, that doesn't hurt. No.
And so today, when we say goodbye, we're going to play a little song in Lee's honor as we say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.